Trump said he wouldn't get involved in this. And his entire presidential campaign, where
So, first of all, this isn't a new war. It's really not. It's an old, old war that's gone on for decades because nobody has dealt with Iran. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, I don't know who this guy is. I'm just stitching him because he's going on and on about Donald Trump and Donald Trump's bullshit about him not wanting war. He doesn't want war. But he gave Iran an ultimatum. The difference with Trump is he's going to follow through. They had a 60-day window. It's very simple. Okay? But these people, they hate Trump. They don't follow him. And so then they just go by whatever other fool is saying that is not right about Donald Trump. Okay? This is also why your Tucker Carlsons, your David Sacks, your Candace Owens, your David Smiths, your Owen Schroeders, on and on, have pushed like they're MAGA, and yet they say we don't want any new wars, but they're really in the camp of wanting us to abandon Israel. And again, the entire world wants Israel annihilated. That's how cold-hearted the world is. Okay? But that's why it's biblical too, because if you do know the Bible, you know that God said this would happen to them. It doesn't mean God wants it to happen to them. So America, again, has always been in the area of we're not going to let it happen to them. So, which is why America has been, with us only being 250 years old, right? That we've been put up on the world stage as a superpower, and we haven't been around as long as China and Russia, okay? Because God's elevated us. Why? Because we stand by Israel. Nobody else does. There, at times you'll have Europe or the UK or whatever say yes, we stand with them, but their standing with Israel is always shaky. It's always based on what every other country thinks, okay? So, the fact is that this is why these people that I just mentioned played like they were MAGA, because they were going to turn, and what they were always going to turn on was Trump. So it's the interesting timing of Tucker doing his interview with David Sacks, who was part of the military-industrial complex, is that they are trying to twist it like Iran's never been a threat. No, Iran has always been a threat. I mean, that's just a known fact, and they're acting like, oh, this, because again, if you have to look at it through the biblical lens, and most people won't. But to Iran, it's biblical from their their end. I don't mean they don't view the same God as we do, but again, they recognize the Torah because that's all their history. To Israel, they know what it's about. That's why this war, this is not a new war. It's one that's gone on forever. And because of bad people in the government, the military-industrial complex, the intelligence agencies, they've never wanted to deal with Iran because if they did, there might be less Jews killed. And at the end of the day, as the Bible predicts, most of the world wants the Jews annihilated. Do you see why you don't want to get on this road with these people? But this is where most people are going to go, unfortunately. And, that's why the book of life is much thinner than, the people that are in the book of what God is looking for is way thinner than the other book, than those that are damned. So even though everybody thinks this is all just political and Donald Trump's gone back on his word, he has not gone back on his word. It's just these people, and I've said it for a while, that the Candace Owens, the these fake MAGA people, Tucker, they were going to turn on Trump. They're being careful about it because they know that there's people out there that see what they're doing. And but that's the reason why they all, and Tucker especially, has tried to be very careful to play the middle of the road, but he doesn't do a very good job of it if you pay close enough attention. He has a bias against the Jews. He just does. So, which is fine. It's just you have to take that into account because the people that don't want to deal with Iran, and Trump wanted to deal peacefully with them. Iran chose not to handle it peacefully. They said, no, we're still going to get a nuke. So that's how all these fake MAGA people, and again, this guy I doubt has ever been MAGA. I'm just using his video to stitch. Because this is what all of them are going to do. Is like Trump lied to the people, Trump betrayed the people, he said no new wars. Again, this isn't a new war, it's a very old one. It's like the oldest war going back to the beginning of the history with the Bible. It's the oldest war ever. So it's not a new war. But it is a war that should have been Iran should have been dealt with a long time ago. So that there would have not been so many deaths, so that 9/11 wouldn't have happened, so we never would have gotten all these terrorist organizations, so that this Islamic radical stuff had never gotten to the point that it has. Okay? Iran wants to see Christians not killed. We're infidels to them. We are. That said, just recognize all of the people that have played for a long time like they're MAGA, and they're slowly, their whole point to doing this all along was to get to this point where now they'll try to shift. Like, what is Trump doing? Why is he doing this? He's starting a war. He said he wouldn't. He sat there and bashed Biden for getting, the Ukraine-Russia war. That's totally different. That's all with NATO getting up on their border. That could have been totally prevented. But this old war is one that should have been dealt with and never has been dealt with. So understand that while Iran's going to be dealt with because it's God's will, the other thing that's happening that's part of God's will is that all these other people that were always going to turn, that were always going to slowly try to get you to see that Trump is the problem because they knew long ago that Trump was a threat. And not because he's a threat to America, but because he will stand up for what is right and do what is right and deal with the things that people a long time ago should have dealt with and didn't. So, again, the book of life, the people that are in the book of life, is very, very thin.